Revealed 4 incredibly harmful carbs you must avoid after 60, and 4 transformative ones you need. Mary Johnson sat alone in her dimly lit kitchen, the only sound echoing the quietness of a life once filled with laughter. It felt surreal to scroll mindlessly through her computer. Her eyes landed on a sensationalized headline. Revealed 4 incredibly harmful carbs you must avoid after 60, and 4 transformative ones you need. Clenching her hands around the mouse, she hesitated. At 62, the image of her body reflected in the bathroom mirror loomed large, like a cruel reminder of her late husband's absence. Did she have the strength to embrace change, or was this just another fleeting whim? The blog beckoned. Words on the screen spoke of health and vitality, the pitfalls of junk food, the sugar-laden treats that had become her companions in loneliness. It dawned on her that she had drifted not just from her physical self, but from the woman she used to be. The vibrant spirit she had cultivated alongside her husband was buried under layers of regret and neglect. Deep down, a flicker of guilt ignited. She had always prided herself in bringing warmth to her family, yet now a chilling emptiness enveloped her days. As she read on, Mary felt the weight of societal pressure bearing down on her. The aging process had peeled away the recognition she once received. The joyful compliments of her youth faded, replaced by pitying glances from strangers, as if time had made her invisible. The alarming thought gripped her. Was this really who she had become? A woman imprisoned by her own unhealthy choices? Realization struck her like a bolt of lightning. The family gatherings that once brought her joy felt riddled with unease and uncertainty. What would they think if they saw her now? A woman navigating through aisle after aisle of comfort food, finding solace in snacks instead of cooking meals that would harbor love. But did she even know how to return to that vibrant place, to reclaim her love for cooking, when all she had left were memories of a happier time? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Mary felt clenching despair wash over her. Could she really transform her life by redefining her relationship with food? Was it naive? Hope draped in an apron? To think she could cultivate joy and rebuild her family connections through the meals she prepared? Skepticism swirled in her mind like a storm. Her daughter Claire was busy, too busy to notice the depths of her loneliness.
Claire's skepticism nagged at her like an unresolved knot, leaving Mary anxious and questioning if anyone would appreciate her attempts at healing. Standing in the kitchen, surrounded by crumpled snack wrappers and remnants of solo dinners, she felt herself at another precipice. With the weight of her memories and insecurities pressing down around her, could she sit down at the family table again, or would this endeavor merely magnify the chasms formed by grief? Mary hesitated, staring at the ingredients laid out before her, wondering if she was truly ready to confront not just her diet, but the burgeoning rift in her family. She couldn't shake off the gnawing urgency. Life in its rawest form demanded she act. But was she ready to navigate the complexities of her transformation while wrestling with her daughter's doubts about her journey? The thought sent a jolt through her. Could her culinary revival also weave together the frayed ties of her family's love, or was she risking it all on another path that might lead to further isolation? The next day, the sunlight filtered into Mary's kitchen through the window's dusty panes, casting warm patterns on the counters. She stared at the mess that had accumulated, an unsettling reminder of her habits and unfulfilled desires. Today, she decided, would not repeat the past. The urge to retreat into the comfort of familiar bad choices wrestled with an unfamiliar resolve to take action. She took a deep breath, opened a new tab on her computer, and searched for healthy recipes. The process almost felt exhilarating, like setting foot on an unexplored path. Recipes inspired by fresh vegetables, lean proteins, and herbs that could breathe life into her meals dawned the screen. Gradually, the images transformed not just her kitchen, but ignited something inside her as well, a spark she thought had been lost forever. Mary committed to preparing a meal that evening. As she gathered ingredients, bright tomatoes, fragrant basil, and a glimmering piece of salmon, she sensed a stirring within her that felt both foreign and exhilarating. This wasn't merely about creating a meal, it was her first step toward embracing life again.
The mere act of chopping vegetables became an infusion of purpose. Each slice echoed a promise to herself to reclaim the joy she had surrendered. Feeling the rhythm of her movements, Mary reflected on her culinary past, those bustling days when the kitchen was a hub of laughter and chatter. A twinge of sadness flickered, but she pushed it aside. She was envisioning a future. As the evening approached and the aromas filled the house, she recognized a familiar sensation: pride. It had been years since she felt that swell of accomplishment over a meal. Time passed quickly, and soon the table was set. She could almost hear her husband's voice cheering her on, the buoyant atmosphere of their shared meals filling the air again.
Danced in Claire's eyes, but Mary remained keenly aware that outward expressions could be mere camouflage for deeper sentiments simmering just beneath the surface. Minutes passed, filled mostly with the sounds of utensils grazing against plates and the occasional question from Claire about the recipe. With each inquiry, Mary felt her guard slowly lowering, a rhythm familiar yet foreign. They were engaged in dialogue. A spark that had grown dim was reigniting, but it was still too early to feel triumphant. "Why this meal?" Claire finally asked, her eyes narrowing slightly as they focused on Mary. "I wanted to show you that I can change," came the honest reply before she could filter her words. "That I'm trying to be better, not just for myself, but for us." The weight of the truth settled heavily between them, amplifying the significant emotional risk she had undertaken. Claire looked away, her expression unreadable. Mary could almost hear the thoughts pulsing through her mind. Was it defensiveness? Hurt? The doubts that Mary had battled all day rose to the surface, and with them came the sharp realization that her transformation wouldn't magically resolve all the disparities of their relationship. "Mom," Claire began, her tone uneasy, "I don't want to be the reason you feel like you have to change. Shouldn't you be doing this for you?" A jagged feeling pinched Mary's chest. Everything she was doing was for Claire, to repair their strained connection, but perhaps this was also about Mary confronting her own reflection. "It is for me," she corrected gently, "but it's also for you. I want to create a better environment for us to connect, to be healthy together." The moment felt pivotal. Claire's shoulders relaxed a fraction, though Mary sensed the wheels turning behind her daughter's eyes. It was evident that Claire was battling her own fears, fears that stemmed from years of distance and disappointment. "I don't know, Mom. It's hard to believe this is real," Claire murmured, her voice a thread strained beneath unresolved tensions. Mary's heart tightened. How could she clearly convey the sincerity of her intentions? Instead of responding, she grasped the serving spoon, her emotions colliding with her hopes for a future that felt equally fraught and promising. "Let's keep talking," Mary offered, feeling an urgency consolidate within her, propelling her toward reaching for the emotional connection she had so longed for. Claire stared at her mother, weighing the sincerity against the memories of hurt, considering the possibility of what this new path might hold for both of them. In that precarious stillness, Mary felt a shift, fragile yet resilient, a vital moment charged with uncertainty and a flicker of optimism. Would her honesty unravel the past? Would it set them free to write a new chapter together? And as the shadows lengthened with the dusk, a thought crossed Mary's mind like a dark omen. Would she have the courage to confront her own missteps and genuinely listen to Claire's needs, no matter how painful that journey might be? The real challenge lay ahead, and Mary braced herself, ready to face whatever truths awaited them both. The next step in this fragile journey was looming, and Mary wondered if she could muster the strength to confront the deeper issues at play, pushing both mother and daughter toward the uncomfortable truths they had long avoided. Would stepping into that honesty finally bridge the gap that had kept them apart? Mary sat at the table in silence, the remnants of their meal sitting between her and Claire like a fragile truce. It was the first significant meal they had shared in years, the first step towards reconciliation, yet doubt gnawed at her gut. Her mind swirled with the possible paths this new openness could carve. Could they truly navigate the old pain together? "Mom, what if—" Claire's voice broke the quiet, a hesitant inquiry laced with vulnerability. Mary leaned in, her heart racing at the prospect of Claire finally inviting her into a deeper conversation. "What if you feel like this is just a phase?" Claire continued, her tone soft yet unyielding. "What if I say I want to believe you, but doubts still linger?
Those words struck Mary with the force of a physical blow. It struck her. This wasn't just about her wanting to change. It was about Claire feeling secure enough to trust that change. The weight of Claire's uncertainty lay heavy across the table, amplifying the growing tension that had clouded their relationship for too long. "I understand," Mary replied carefully, tracing a finger along the tabletop, suddenly acutely aware of the distance between them. "For you, it's probably easier to hold on to the past." Claire shifted, her discomfort evident. What if it is easier? Easier to expect the worst than to hope for something better? Mary nodded, grappling with the painful honesty of her daughter's words. In their shared silence, she reflected back on her own journey of self-discovery, a pattern of leaning on expectation rather than confronting fears. It had been a comfortable, albeit unproductive, approach. "I used to think that change meant upheaval, chaos, loss." Mary spoke slowly, her voice steadying as she sought to uplift the mood. "But I have begun to realize that change can also mean growth, healing, and possibility." Claire's gaze lingered on Mary, searching for authenticity in her words. The room descended into quiet contemplation. It felt almost sacred, as if their vulnerability was knitting together new fabric to their bond. "Do you believe it, though, that change is possible?" Claire asked, her eyes wide and serious. "I do." Mary used her inner conviction to push past doubt, her voice carrying a newfound strength. "But it's not just about me. It's about us."
I have to believe that if I start again, you can too. That we can. The conversation unfurled slowly, each word acting as a stitch in a new tapestry binding them together. Claire shared frustrations from her friends, her loneliness, even her struggles at school, a small glimpse that illuminated the depths of her bottled emotions. Every sentence punctured the protective barrier each had built over the years, exposing vulnerabilities that had long been kept at bay. Mary felt a surge of hope. They were crossing the bridge from silence to intimacy, and with each confession, the promises of the future seemed more tangible. Yet there still loomed the specter of the past, years of hurt, miscommunication, and disappointment. Would they be able to excavate those buried feelings together? "I want to try, if you're willing," Mary said quietly, feeling the urgency of the moment echo through her words. "What does trying even look like?" Claire challenged, her eyebrows knitting together. "I think it means asking hard questions, even when we're scared of the answers. It might mean offending one another or reliving painful memories." Claire's expression shifted to contemplation, her eyes flickering with an array of emotions. "And what if it doesn't work?" Mary took a steadying breath, the stakes higher than any afternoon meal should bear. "Then we try again, or we find a new way to communicate. We confront whatever is tearing us apart instead of running away." At that moment, Mary realized the necessity of forging a path towards their healing, a path that would require not just her courage, but a commitment from Claire as well. As they sat in heavy silence, a trepidation loomed. Could they truly dismantle the fortress of silence brick by brick, or would they wind up back where they started? Mary couldn't shake the feeling that they had merely scratched the surface of something far deeper. With the realization that authentic healing would demand confronting their most painful truths, Mary braced herself for whatever challenges lay ahead. What if the real test would come from unveiling the memories they had long since buried? Would they be able to withstand the unearthing? Mary's mind whirled as she absorbed the weight of her thoughts. The quiet between her and Claire felt like a chasm that had widened over years, a distance not easily bridged, even with new intentions. The stakes remained uncomfortably high, gnawing at her chest. Did she have the courage to bring forth the buried memories she feared? Would Claire respond with an open heart or a defensive wall? A soft sigh escaped Mary's lips, breaking the silence, and she felt the urge to step forward into vulnerability. "Do you remember the summer when we went hiking in the mountains?" she began, meeting Claire's hesitant gaze. "I thought we'd be doing something fun, but I remember feeling so disconnected from you, even then." Claire's expression shifted, a flicker of recognition in her eyes.
"I remember the hike and how frustrated we both were that day." "Yes," Mary admitted, feeling a bit lighter as the nostalgia provided a temporary bridge. We got lost, and I was trying to lead us when I didn't really know the way, and you were so angry at me. Do you remember? I wanted to just enjoy the trip instead of arguing about directions. It felt like we were fighting over everything," Claire replied, her voice a mix of longing and bitterness. "It wasn't just about getting lost. It was everything." That hit harder than anticipated. Mary felt the sting of old wounds reopening. "It was everything for me too. Often when I tried to lead, I was really just afraid of admitting how lost I truly felt, not just in the woods, but in our relationship. I'm sorry for that." Claire studied her, the vulnerability radiating between them palpable. "What if we keep trying?" she whispered after a moment. "And what if it doesn't work out like we hope?" The hesitance in Claire's voice mirrored Mary's own. Doubts threatened to overshadow the flicker of hope, tugging her into a pattern of avoidance. "Trying means being honest about our fears. It means rocking the boat to find the truth." "Like diving into the deep end before knowing if we can swim?" Claire asked, her voice laced with curiosity rather than cynicism. "Exactly," Mary breathed, urging her own resolve to stay steady. "And it won't always be comfortable. We might have to relive painful moments, but keeping silent isn't really living." The air thickened with the weight of their shared commitment. Both felt a yearning to rediscover one another, buried under layers of past disappointments. "Maybe we should talk about that fight later," Claire suggested, her brow furrowing in thought. "What's bothering me most now is the feeling of redundancy, the belief that we'll always circle back to the same hurt." Mary nodded, absorbing Claire's words. "Redundancy stems from fear. It keeps us trapped in a loop, and I know I've been guilty of running in circles, afraid to confront the past with you." Silence settled again, but this time it felt charged with possibility. Hope flickered faintly, entwined with the trepidation of revisiting their most profound grievances. They had edged closer to a precipice of discovery, both aware of the depths from which they would need to pull strength. "Those feelings you mentioned earlier, your struggles, your loneliness, they're important to me. Your honesty is valuable," Mary said quietly. "This might be the perfect moment for us to unveil our hidden truths." Claire shifted in her seat, her expression somber yet contemplative. "And what if we open those doors and we don't like what we find?" Mary leaned in slightly, aware of her heart beating in tandem with the urgency of the moment. "Then we face them together. We help each other heal and learn how to communicate, even if it means hurtful things come up. I believe we owe it to ourselves to find out."
The dining room felt alive with an electric tension as they sat there. Excitement mingled with fear. Will they truly unveil what they had kept buried for so long? Mary realized they had a fork in the road ahead of them. Would they have the strength to peel back the layers, or would they retreat into silence again, leaving a vital part of their relationship unexamined? As she looked at Claire, waiting for her response, Mary felt the unmistakable push of destiny looming. What awaited them in the unraveling of hidden truths? Would each revelation bring pain or surprising clarity? The taste of uncertainty hung in the air as both mother and daughter prepared for the crucial dialogue that could redefine their future. With the weight of expectation hanging in the air, Mary noticed Claire's fingers nervously tracing the grain of the wooden table. Beneath the surface, they both felt the pulse of pent-up emotions, intertwining fear and hope. Mary steeled herself for the conversation ahead, aware that once opened, the floodgates could usher in both clarity and chaos, a necessary turmoil for revitalizing their long-standing connection. "Let's start with where it feels hardest," Mary suggested, her voice steady but uncertain. "What's been the hardest part for you? I want to listen." Claire paused, her gaze dropping to the table, as if searching for the right words amid the splinters. "I think it's feeling unseen, like all my struggles evaporate into the air between us. I thought if I kept going, through the ache of feeling neglected, it wouldn't matter. But it has, and I've been angry." Mary felt the sting of those words settle in her chest, both a confirmation of her own fear and the recognition of Claire's pain. "I had no idea you felt that way," she admitted softly,
pulling herself deeper into the vulnerability that had become their lifeline. "What was I doing that made you feel unseen?" Claire looked up, her brown eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "Your focus seemed to shift away from me the moment your work became overwhelming. I felt like an afterthought. The warmth we used to share became distant." The memories enveloped Mary, echoing the silent moments she had avoided facing. Those late nights spent at the office, sacrifices designed to create a secure future for Claire, but ultimately distancing them. Guilt washed over her, and she felt a resolve forming amid the regret. "I thought I was providing for us. I didn't see that I was pushing you away." "And that was the cycle, wasn't it?" Claire pressed, her voice gathering strength. "The more you worked, the less you engaged with me. I tried to hold it together, but a core part of me was crumbling." As Claire's words sunk in, Mary understood for the first time the depth of the resentment Claire felt. It mirrored her own growing discontent, the loneliness that had been festering silently. "I see now how my choices impacted not just our connection, but your mental health."
I was running from my own insecurities in my career. I didn't face how isolating my decisions could be for us. This revelation struck a new chord in Mary, revealing a hidden connection between her professional ambitions and personal fears. She allowed herself to acknowledge that her drive was rooted in a deep-seated desire for validation, an unyielding pressure to prove her worth outside the home. Would confronting that truth about herself open a pathway to understanding where Claire was coming from? "I was afraid," Mary continued, "afraid of failing, of being inadequate in my career, so I prioritized work to avoid feeling worthless. And in doing so, I failed to see how your worth was tied to our relationship." Claire's expression softened, her vulnerability creating a bridge over the chasm of misunderstanding. "Maybe it's time we both confronted the fear of inadequacy, together. We need to redefine what success means for us as a family." Mary felt a shift within her, a flicker of something she hadn't felt in years. Collaboration over confrontation, a shared journey instead of isolated paths. "Yes," she agreed, the word flooding with her growing resolve. "Let's recast our narrative. A partnership that helps us perceive our successes differently. What does that look like to you?" As Claire considered this question, Mary's heart raced, uncertain yet exhilarated by the possibility of collaborating on a new kind of relationship, a bond that demanded awareness and commitment from both sides. What lies on the horizon if they could turn defeat into growth, and if their personal battles could intertwine productively rather than destructively? Just as Claire opened her mouth to respond, a loud crash echoed from the kitchen, interrupting the fragile moment. Mary's heart dropped. Was a reminder of tough realities crashing into their redefining moment already? Would they retreat from vulnerability as the unexpected threatened the newly forged connection? Both women exchanged startled glances, and at that moment, Mary felt another fork in the road. They had to choose again. Embrace the uncertainty waiting beyond the kitchen door, or allow fear to dictate their responses. A cacophony of shattering ceramic and the ensuing silence cast a heavy pall over the living room. Mary felt her heart race, the moment's vulnerability shattered along with the dishes. She was momentarily paralyzed, the mixed echoes of the past and present mingling in front of her. Instinctively, she wanted to retreat, to shield herself from the chaos that lurked beyond the threshold. Claire's gaze shifted, and for a heartbeat, Mary saw the shared fear in her eyes, a mirrored reflection of the fragile progress they had just made. But then, in a flicker of resolve, Claire stood and moved toward the kitchen with purpose. That small act stirred something in Mary. It was a reminder that moments of chaos could also become opportunities for clarity. With a deep breath that steadied her racing thoughts, Mary followed Claire into the kitchen. The sight that met her was stark. Broken plates littered the floor, remnants of a once functional evening. Claire knelt, eyes wide, heart visibly racing, as she began to gather the pieces. "Let me help," Mary said, feeling a surge of determination. Kneeling beside Claire, she reached out, but Claire hesitated. "I'll handle this," Claire replied, her voice taut, carrying both anger and a hint of the connection they had started to rekindle.
Mary felt the tension pull at her chest. "You don't have to do it alone," she pressed gently, conscious of the precarious balance they were attempting to strike. "I've been alone for a while now," Claire replied, her tone revealing a layer of vulnerability that had yet to fully surface. "This mess, it's symbolic. I feel like I've been picking up the pieces of my life alone. Sometimes, I don't even know if you're willing to share the burden with me." The words hung in the air, heavy and undeniable. Mary felt a rush of clarity. While she believed her intentions had always been to support Claire, she had neglected the simple, profound act of sharing struggles side by side. It was a reality that intertwined with the nature of her professional life. How often had she tackled projects isolated at her desk, viewing challenges as personal obstacles to overcome instead of collaborative efforts? "I'm sorry," Mary said, her voice steady but soft. "I see the mess now, both in here and between us. I'm working on being present and acknowledging our struggles together. But I didn't truly understand what sharing the weight looks like until now." Claire paused, studying Mary as if weighing the sincerity of her words. After a moment, she let out a slow, cautious breath, as if reconsidering the narrative they were creating. "If we're going to redefine how we perceive our success, we need to start here, with the messiness, not just the clean parts." "I agree," Mary said, feeling the stirrings of hope. "Maybe we could even turn this mishap into something constructive, a tangible first step toward reigniting our connection." She carefully picked up a jagged piece of ceramic, holding it like a delicate token of their exchange. "What if we crafted something from what's broken, literally and figuratively?" Claire looked at her, surprise flickering in her eyes. "You mean like creating a mosaic?" "Exactly," Mary replied, with a growing excitement as her mind raced with possibilities. "Turning fragments into something beautiful, just like us." The thought resonated, radiating warmth through the evident chill that had lingered. Together, they began collecting the remnants. Each shard became a metaphor as they crafted something anew, shaping a physical representation of their evolving partnership.
Yet, as they worked alongside one another, Mary couldn't shake the sensation that there were still deeper truths lurking beneath the surface, questions about their individual goals and dreams that remained unaddressed. Were they merely deflecting from other unresolved issues by focusing on this singular moment? As the final piece of glass settled into place, Mary's heart raced, not from anxiety, but anticipation. There was a transformation occurring between them, yet the cracks of their past still seemed to threaten the future. "Let's promise to always turn towards the mess together, not away from it," Claire suggested, gazing at their makeshift creation. Mary nodded, but a lingering doubt stung her consciousness. Would they truly have the courage to navigate the complexities of their individual aspirations without allowing them to fracture the partnership they were beginning to rebuild? And just like the kitchen's havoc, other realities loomed on the horizon, waiting to be addressed. Would this mosaic grant them the strength they needed to withstand the inevitable storms ahead? As hope intertwined with uncertainty, a new question emerged. What would happen when they confronted the fears and ambitions that lay hidden, waiting for their turn to be shared? The next chapter of their journey was not yet written, and the looming confrontations could either forge a new path or thrust them deeper into chaos. The choice awaited them. Mary stepped back to admire their finished mosaic, the shards of ceramic gleaming under the kitchen lights like a promise of renewal. Its imperfections resonated with her, a mirror of her own life's complexities. She felt a shift within herself, a determination rising to embrace the messy truths that they had begun to acknowledge. Yet beneath the surface of this newfound optimism, Mary wrestled with an impending anxiety. The act of creating something beautiful from brokenness felt liberating, but it also served as a stark reminder of all that remained unaddressed. Claire's earlier confession about working through life alone echoed in her ears, and it unsettled her. Had they crafted this piece not just as a moment of bonding, but as a distraction from deeper issues? "Let's take a break," Claire suggested, wiping her hands on a kitchen towel. The moment felt charged with unspoken words.
It was as if they both realized that this crafting exercise was only the tip of the iceberg. "Yeah," Mary replied, her heart beating a little faster. She leaned against the kitchen counter, feeling the weight of words that hung between them. "What do we do now?" Claire turned, her brow furrowed. "I think we need to talk about what this means, what we want from each other, from ourselves." Mary's breath hitched. Words surfaced in her mind, vivid thoughts of her career ambitions and the way their dynamic intertwined with them. "For most of my life, I thought success was about standing alone," she confessed. As Mary prepared to step further into this uncharted territory of vulnerability, one question reverberated in her mind. What would they uncover when they finally faced not only their personal aspirations, but the very foundation of their relationship? Their journey had only just begun, and the true test awaited them around the corner. Mary felt a tremor of uncertainty in her chest as she left the kitchen and retreated to her small home office. The contrast from the vibrant energy of their collaborative mosaic making soured the moment, and now the rhythmic clicking of her fingers on the keyboard felt mechanical, the words on the screen smudging into a blur. She shook her head, trying to clear her mind, yet thoughts bubbled insistently, professional fears intermingled with self-doubt. What would they truly decide to pursue together? The clarity Claire suggested felt contrived in the face of Mary's internal turmoil. She took a breath, forcing herself to summon a feeling of control. Strategy, she remembered, was her forte. She began to jot down a draft of her goals, a promotion at work, restructuring her workflow to avoid burnout, and crucially, a commitment to communicating her aspirations, not just to Claire, but to her colleagues. But even as the list grew, another layer of anxiety emerged. Would her ambitions come off as desperate? Wouldn't conversing about her goals risk exposing all the vulnerabilities festering just beneath the surface? For the first time since their discussion, Mary questioned whether she could both push herself professionally and engage in authentic vulnerability without becoming overwhelmed. Hours passed, and she remained locked in a cycle of drafting and erasing her goals, each attempt tugging her mind into a deeper vortex of doubt. She suddenly remembered Claire's assertion, vulnerabilities signal strength. Simple enough on the surface, but did she possess enough resilience to display her flaws? As she stared at the blinking cursor, images of past failures smeared her confidence, the missed deadlines, the burning resentment she felt when her ideas were brushed aside in meetings. That night, sitting in a swath of darkness illuminated only by the blue light of her computer, Mary resolved to reach into her past experiences, not to feel defeated, but to extract lessons, attributes she often disregarded. She had faced hardships, moments when she questioned her expertise. Without intention, she began flipping through her office notebooks, each page rife with sketches and ideas that once characterized her aspirations. Finding an old vision board tucked beneath some papers, where notes of aspirations mingled with mementos and photos, something flickered in Mary's chest, a sense of recognition, but also discontent. The person she once envisioned, confident and audacious, had been buried under time and complacency. Clenching her jaw, she ripped up the current list of goals, letting the pieces fall gently to the floor.
Con fresca determinación, Mary began anew. She crafted a plan, one that allowed for collaboration rather than isolation, a plan that embraced not just her aspirations, but also the interplay of support with Claire. What if she engaged others in her vision rather than cautiously guarding them? The following morning, Mary caught Claire at their usual coffee spot. The air was alive with conversation, and she noticed how easily others interacted, sharing ideas as if they were trading currency. This warmth served as a mirror, reflecting the energy she yearned for in her own professional life. "Can we revisit our goals from last night?" she asked Claire with more courage than she felt, her pulse quickening. "I have some different ideas about how to approach it." Claire's eyes widened with curiosity, and Mary felt a swell of excitement chase away her immediate fears. As she spoke, her words flowed with unexpected clarity. She drew from the lessons of her past, while leaving space for dialogue, taking pleasure in crafting mutual aspirations that didn't belong to either of them alone. Yet beneath the surface of her exhilaration, a nagging fear continued to throb. What if Claire didn't respond the way Mary envisioned? What if confronting their vulnerabilities unearthed deeper rifts instead of healing? They needed to meet each other with openness, but vulnerability was a double-edged sword. Was she ready to wield it?
Mary's excitement clashed with her inherent fear of rejection, creating a tumultuous inner battle. As their conversation blossomed and their ideas iterated, each thought planting fresh seeds of hope, Mary understood that the journey toward authentic support would require more than the willingness to share. It needed a reckoning with the past and a readiness to brave uncharted territories. A glimmer of certainty sparked within her, but just as quickly it was snuffed by doubt. Could this truly transform into something deeper without collapsing under the weight of their insecurities? With every decision, Mary teetered between ambition and apprehension, each sharing a vital part of her journey. But deep down she knew the stakes were high, and as they surfaced, would they illuminate a new path or simply lay bare all that had been hidden? Mary stood at the threshold of opportunity, her heart racing as the conversation with Claire took a pivotal turn. The air in the cafe buzzed with energy, yet all she could focus on was the impending dynamic shift, the commitment they were making to one another. No longer was this about her alone. This was a unified venture that would redefine both their paths and strengthen their bond. As they began articulating their goals, she felt the weight of her insecurities flickering in and out of focus. Each time Claire responded with enthusiasm or encouragement, a palpable tension unwound in her heart.
The mere act of sharing her ambitions, of proposing collaborative rituals, had transformed into an exhilarating dance filled with mutual respect. "I want to take charge of that project and show my team what I can do," Mary declared, her voice steadier than she anticipated. "But I also want to check in regularly. I need your insight as well as your support, and for you to feel empowered to share your struggles with me too." Claire beamed, her reply invigorating Mary's spirit further. "This is exactly what we need. Let's set up weekly meetings, just us, to talk through our wins and challenges. I want us to be accountable to each other while building our individual successes." In the glow of that exchange, Mary felt invigorated, like a veil lifting. She had spent so long working in isolation, burying herself in tasks, believing that vulnerability equated to weakness. Yet now, with every conversation peeling back years of hurt and misunderstanding, she tasted the thrill of connection. But beneath the anticipatory excitement still loomed an existing shadow. Would both of their expectations be met? Could they navigate the complexities of each of their aspirations without falling back into previous patterns of emotional distance? Their discussions yielded new strategies and shared milestones, with each success reinforced by acknowledgement from the other. Soon, Claire brought up her own goals, voicing desires that had long simmered beneath her skin. "I want to pursue that photography course I've been eyeing. I think it's time I invest in what I love." Mary felt pride blossom within her as Claire's passion illuminated the air. She began to realize that they were no longer in a position to compete for resources, attention, or validation. Instead, they were rooting for one another to thrive, creating an atmosphere of mutual encouragement that had been lacking for far too long. In the weeks that followed, tangible achievements began to mount for both of them. Mary earned recognition at work for her proactive contributions, her team commending her on newfound leadership, while Claire's photography started blooming as she shared her work with a broader audience. The recognition they both sought was not just in accolades, but in the form of a bond that anchored them, confiding in one another, expressing fears, and celebrating victories, small and large. "I feel like we're on the right track," Claire remarked during one of their check-ins, laughter spilling from her lips as they shared a meal they had cooked together. It was the first time in years that laughter resonated in Mary's kitchen in such abundance. "I never thought I'd feel more connected to you, especially after everything." Yet in that moment, Mary recognized the critical aspect of their lives. Their personal growth was intrinsically tied to their shared efforts. She paused and reflected, cherishing her recognition of how cooperation transformed their dynamic. It was a realization so profound that it carried her into a future where individuality coexisted alongside camaraderie. Happiness coursed through her veins, not just stemming from her accomplishments, but due to the reconciliation of their relationship. Looking at Claire, eyes sparkling and warmth radiating, Mary understood that they had come a long way. The tearful memories of their once fractured connection had turned into the vibrant stitches holding their partnership together. The final test of their transformation arrived, challenging everything they had been building. Mary felt inclined to invite Claire to an upcoming work event, the possibility of sharing their renewed bond with her colleagues. "What do you say? We can both show what we've accomplished," she proposed, though trepidation clouded her voice. Claire observed her thoughtfully. It's about more than just success, isn't it? It's about each of us standing in our truth and being proud of it. With those words, Mary had no doubt they would thrive when unveiling their potential, not simply at the event, but in each day moving forward. No longer carrying the burdens of guilt or isolation, they were two women stepping into their respective lights, empowered and confident in their newfound partnership. As they both stood on the cusp of what was to come, a profound sense of accomplishment dawned upon Mary. She had conquered her solitary pursuit of perfection through embracing vulnerability, even amid discomfort. With friends and family around, they were ready. They had transformed together, embodied resilience, and reclaimed deeper ties through authentic engagement. They had earned recognition, not just for individual achievements, but as a united front thriving despite previous wounds. Mary stepped into her future with solid confidence, knowing their transformation signified deeper acceptance of themselves and one another. Just as she had forged her new reality, the trust she shared with Claire reshaped everything, completing the journey of healing and connection. The time was ripe for Mary to blossom fully in her strength. She had not only transformed her lifestyle, but she also had established a newfound resolve within her relationship. The journey had been tumultuous, but the destination was finally within reach, ushering in a remarkable chapter of collaboration and achievement. Now, it's your turn to take action. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and ensure more inspiring journeys reach others. Comment below with your reactions and theories about this ending. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Show your support and be part of this transformative movement today.